Thank you for joining us today. ONDP education critic Chandra Pasma, and this room off camera is full of people that went to Robert Land Academy. My name is Jarrett Holmes. I went to Robert Land when I was 14 years old, and you're going to hear hard words, the feeling of omnipresent, persistent violence. When you're a child, there is no hope, there is no future, there is only the moment, and you want to avoid pain in that moment. This is what Robert Land Academy was. I lived in a concrete room with 9 other boys and no door. And everything about my existence was controlled from above. Imagine running away in Niagara, freezing cold, no lights, nowhere to go. But anywhere was less scary than staying at Robert Land. And when we ran, the Niagara Regional Police Service returned us. Indeed, they have been returning runaways since before I was born. Andrew English, who's up here, attended Robert Land Academy before I was born. So we tracked 2,169 alumni. Every name in every yearbook that was made. And these faces beside me are just some of the 110 that are dead. Everyone in this room that's off camera has lost multiple friends. Everybody in this room knows the feeling of searching for a friend and not being able to find them because they're dead. In these pictures, my friends, Derek Remington, Liam Gadsby, nearly half of us to suicide and overdose. The median age we die, 35 years old. We need to understand something. What I am describing to you is not a school. It's an experiment. But in Ontario, call it a school, run a jail. There are no restrictions, there's no accountability, there are no checks. You could do basically whatever you want if you call yourself a private school. Minister Calandra, we want to meet you. We've called on you to meet us. We hope to hear back from you. We've shown how Ontario funded this institution, and we've shown how these pillars, the military, the government, the police, have failed us. But we will not give up hope on these pillars. We believe in our society, and indeed we have hope for this society. So we must impose limits on those that want to work with children, especially at-risk youth. This never should have happened. So NDP, Liberal, Progressive Conservative, please hear this. This is not a political issue. We are talking about child safety, and I know we can all agree on this. We must keep our kids safe. Thank you very much.
My name's Andrew English. I've traveled from British Columbia, I don't know, hundreds of miles, kilometers, and 42 years to this moment where I stand with brothers and now sisters to talk about not all the fine details of what I experienced at Robert Land, but to try and give you a small glimpse into what's a lot of us experienced. I attended the school from 1979 to 1981 inclusive, 3 years solid. At the age of 11, I went there when I was 10 turning 11, barely over 4 feet tall. I had been persistently beaten, by the morale officer, Bill Arthur, a man who was 6'4" and 235 pounds, who took great pleasure in smashing cadets with a canoe paddle as hard as he possibly could, to the point of bringing blood through your skin. He had it in for me. It was the culture of the school to go after the young, the smallest, the most gentle and kind of us were the easy pickings. At the age of 11, I decided I couldn't go back. My father, who was also violent, so at home, stuck between two bad places, I decided to take whatever pills were available in the house in an attempt to kill myself. Ripping up my plane ticket, my father flew into a rage, taped it back together, and if it weren't for the kindness of flight attendants at Ward Air at Dorval Airport intervening, I don't know what would have happened. The following day after being released, I was immediately flown back to the academy. I was greeted by one of the cadets, and I was court-martialed for cowardice at the age of 11. I was made to stand in a stress position for approximately 8 or 9 hours outside of the headmaster, then Scott Bowman, yelled at, given no therapy, not even asked why. From there, I went through the entire punishment code list. At that time, it was up to 15 punishments. It included me having to eat laundry detergent. I received 12 swats, which left me barely able to walk. That again was done under his instruction by Bill Arthur, the morale officer who was my tormentor. I did a number 14, so at 4 foot something, made to run around a soccer field with a 45-pound pack in under half an hour. And I could go on and on about the other punishments that I had to go through, some of which pale in comparison to what a lot of my brothers have had to go through. While meeting everybody is part of a healing experience for me, I'm also shocked to hear that boys up until recently were still exposed to this abuse. So for nearly half a century, people have been hired with criminal backgrounds, people involved in the torture and murder of other individuals have been hired by this institution and been able to do whatever they wanted. I can talk about food deprivation, I can talk about stress positions, I can talk about a million other things that we were put through, but we are standing here coming together to try and get change. I can't believe in Canada somebody who is allowed to come from a school where 13 kids were killed and 2 months or 3 months later join up and become a morale officer or any officer or teacher. No credentials, and yet the government was funding. When I went there, the government was paying for this to happen. And as Jarrett explained, the feeling trapped, like you can't escape, you can't get away, it's true. Every day for 3 years straight, it was anxiety, terror, fear, and pain. This just needs to end. Thank you for enduring my, probably over my time limit, speech and ramble, and I'm happy to take questions afterward. Thank you.
My name is Michael Brown. When I was 8 years old, my older brother, Christopher Brown, this boy right here, was sent away to Robert Land Academy. He was 14. Chris was a very beautiful soul, and he was my absolute hero, and he was and he still remains the most important person in my life. I only got to see him a few times a year when he went to the academy, and that was when he came home on leave. And each time I saw him, I saw the burden the school had on his soul. He was less and less Christopher every time. Christopher, like many boys, attempted to escape the academy several times. The punishment for running away was always severe. Sleep and food deprivation, weighted jacket labor, being isolated from your people. They made sure you wouldn't do it again. In March of 1998, in the blistering cold and snow, he ran away for the final time, accompanied by another student named Matthew Toppy. They ran 50 kilometers away from the academy and eventually laid down side to side across train tracks. The train approached them and the engineer blew the horn and applied the emergency brake but couldn't stop in time. Moments before impact, Matthew stood up and tried to pull Christopher off the tracks. The boy was trained and killed instantly. Chris was 16 years old and Matthew was 17. The day Christopher died is the day my whole family died. My father plummeted into alcoholism and took his anger out on his children. My mother descended into alcoholism and religious extremism. A few years after Chris's death, my parents decided to send me to the same place that killed my brother. Word quickly spread that Chris Brown's brother was at the academy. I had students telling me how my brother killed himself and it wasn't an accident. I had staff telling me they knew Chris and compared me to him. One such staff member grabbed me by the back of the neck, pushed me down against a chair that was dedicated to Chris and yelled at me, "If you don't change your trajectory, you're gonna end up just like your brother." There was a bench with my brother's name on it. It sat in view of most of the academy. I was told that they used to walk recruits past my brother's bench and say, "If you want to take the easy way out, you could be like Brown." The academy took this horrible tragedy and weaponized it to keep students under control by fear. Being forced to attend the same school that killed my brother caused a lot of psychological damages. Years later, I've been diagnosed with CPTSD and I've struggled with alcohol and drug addiction most of my life. I find a lot of peace in the fact that RLA is closed and they can't destroy any more families like me, but we're here today because the steps need to be put forward that stuff like this never happens again. Thank you very much.
Good morning. I'm John Chris, and I've been a secondary school, high school teacher for nearly 30 years. In 1992, my first teaching position was a co-op placement at Robert Land Academy. To the boys, some of whom are here today, I was known as Staff Sergeant Chris. During my time, I personally witnessed or became aware of the relentless emotional, psychological, physical, and sexual abuse that these boys faced on an everyday basis. Looking back, I feel that my primary duty was to have protected these boys, and I failed. The Government of Ontario, as well as multiple other provincial organizations, has historically and intentionally failed to protect them as well. In 2018, I apologized to these boys in an online forum, but I feel in the gravity of this situation in the place where we are today, as a staff member of Robert Land, I want to apologize to all RLA survivors again. I acknowledge what you went through. It was criminal. It happened, and I hope that RLA is forced to apologize to you personally, but I fear that will never come. As a teacher, I believe that every child in the province of Ontario deserves the same level of protection, regardless of whether they are in a public or a private school setting. In addition, through their actions, these boys have closed RLA for good. It was them, not anybody else. They bravely shared their stories in order to protect future generations of children in private schools. They are also concerned that the former staff of Robert Land Academy was recently permitted to stroll 60 kilometers down the highway and immediately start working at another private residential school without being held accountable for their actions at RLA. Today, on behalf of all RLA survivors, we demand the following calls to action from our provincial government so that this can never happen again. A requirement that all staff perform a criminal records check. A requirement that all teaching staff register with the Ontario College of Teachers. A requirement of more rigorous health and safety inspections occur on an annual basis with detailed reporting that examine all aspects of student life, especially in residential schools. And finally, the establishment of an independent ombudsman's office that oversees all private schools in the province of Ontario. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Stefanos Karatopoulos. I thank you, MPP Pasma and media, for being here. I attended Robert Land Academy when I was 11 years old. I had a great friend there. He ended up hanging himself twice. I had to cut him down twice. The third time, he ended up drinking a bottle of all-purpose cleaner and a bottle of Windex. And those days, that particular day has affected me, has changed the whole course of my life. I do not know if he's alive or dead. As the last time the ambulance took him away, I never saw him again. And we were subjected to such abuses, such as having to dig our own graves 6 feet down, 4 feet wide. Some students were made to lay in it with dirt getting thrown on them, saying they're going to be buried. Other ones had to fill them in, dig them out again and everything. So I am standing here before you all to make sure that no child should have to dig their own grave again. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Chandra Pasma, the MPP for Ottawa West Nepean and Shadow Minister for Education for the official opposition. And I want to thank you, Jarrett and Andrew and Mike, Stefanos and John, for sharing your incredibly powerful stories. I know they represent just a fraction of the many terrible stories that have come out of Robert Land Academy, and there are many others here with us today who have similar stories. As a parent, and particularly the mother of a 12-year-old boy, these stories just break my heart. You were little kids when this happened to you. You deserved so much better. We need to take action to ensure that this doesn't happen to a single other child in Ontario. We cannot allow this kind of institutional abuse to take place under the name of education. There are actions that we can take immediately to prevent it from happening. I fully support the policy proposals put forward today by these survivors of Robert Land Academy, and I'm prepared to table private members' legislation if necessary to make them happen. But the government could take action today, and I urge them to do so. Minister, please meet with these men, hear their stories, and let's work together to stop this kind of abuse from ever happening again. Thank you, and we'll take any questions. All right, thank you so much. And for everyone who's here, if you'd like to come up and take a picture together, now is the moment.